Best.
So it's my brain. Okay.
Can't unhear it.
This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum. This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum. This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum. This is a show about the 500 albums that Rolling Stone says are the best, and we're gonna talk about them ad nauseum.
Hello. Oh my God. We'll tell you about it in a second. Hi, it's your buddy Carl Carter Pfanstiehl, followed by my buddy
Dan Woodard.
Episode 3 of Backwards Beats, and we are celebrating our third album that we're going to check out at position 498. What is that album, Daniel?
Well, 498 represents the 498th best album of all time as decided by Rolling Stone magazine in their 2023 review of the top 500 albums.
And may I add, for those who have asked on social media, this is we are not sponsored by them. We are not affiliated with them. Frankly, so far, I wouldn't say we overwhelmingly agree with them 3N, but it's so much fun that someone decided to put their ass on the line and give us a list to work with.
Yeah, and whether or not we agree is kind of irrelevant, but here are two seasoned musicians who have played a lot of music, listened to a lot of music, love a lot of music, who want to come forward with a podcast that is as open-minded as we can be, as respectful as we can be, but as honest as we can be.
That's right. We invite you to join us in that journey. We have some ways that you can reach us, as some of you already have. You can catch us at Instagram at
Backwards Beats Podcast.
And our Gmail.
Shockingly weird, but Backwards Beats Podcast at gmail.com.
How did you ever land both of those?
It was really hard to get in the headspace to figure out the appropriate name. But we did it.
Both.
We did it. I think we at least C tier, B tier.
I call it a. It's not S.
Not S tier. That's fair.
We're B plus tier.
Salute.
So B plus tier, sitting in Halethorpe, Maryland. That is just south of Baltimore. That's where we reside, roughly. Mm-hmm. And today we're looking at this album. It's chewy.
It's chewy. This album, as we mentioned, is number 498 on the list. The album is Suicide by the band.
Suicide. Produced in 1977.
That's correct.
Not 97, 1977.
Funny enough, it's almost a Christmas album. It was released on December 28th.
This is not what I was calling Christmas. Fa la 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 la. I'm going to crash my car. How do you even recover from that? So check it out. What we have here is we have a 7-song album. Mm-hmm. It is not very long, and ladies and gentlemen, it is not very well listened to according to Spotify either.
No, it's not. However, it's considered really well respected.
Yes, no. So Carl, for once, attempted to do a little research. Respected in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Fell on its face in America.
It did. But as far as its influence, how about that?
Fair enough.
Right. So respect influence was probably the fair correction.
Yes. But I mean, respect enough to make the top 500 list on Rolling Stone, too. I mean, there's a reason we're talking about this.
Yeah,
thing.
we do not have any albums, I'm pretty sure, We have not really looked at the list, but I'm positive neither one of us have an album on this list.
Nah. Had you ever even remotely heard of this group and or album
A little bit. I went through. First of all, this is not a punk rock album, but I did go through a pretty intense punk rock phase and was introduced to this band when I was in the 8th grade, but I never listened to them.
What year was that, Dan?
I declined to answer.
Okay, fair enough. Roughly, what generation was that, Dan?
Let's say A, B, C, D, X.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's a very fine answer.
Yeah.
And I mean, punk was forming. Therefore, punk can be many things.
Yes, it can.
Puberty of music is a real thing, people.
Yep.
And I will just go ahead and throw one of my lines out early, which is, I respect they tried a thing here. Like, this was not a thing that was being done at all in 1977. There is no equivalent. I mean, this was the thing, the foot that kicked open the door.
For sure. Not only do they try a thing, I think they really believed in a thing.
No question about it. Because I listened to a lot of the rest of their catalog. And holy shit, did they stay with that theme.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the very first album of the band Suicide. And as you mentioned, it's released in 1977 on Red Star Records. And
their first release on Red Star Records. I mean, this was their debut.
Correct.
By the way, for you Spotifyers out there, you will not find the original release on Spotify. You will only find the 19 master. 2019, that is.
Correct. Which also speaks to the fact that people still take this album very seriously, which might be some foreshadowing for our opinions on this.
This is my smiling sound.
Yeah. I had to fill in the dead space as Carl did not respond
it
to that.
was
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
I was looking for the furtherment on the history here, but honestly, the fact that someone sat back in 19 and went, "No, I'm going to remaster this," and garner a ton of listens says something. There's some staying power here.
So I'm going to make a statement, and then you might understand later why I'm going to make this statement.
Hit me.
The album was recorded in 4 days.
Yep.
At Ultima Studio in New York City.
Yep.
And the reason it was able to be recorded in 4 days is that the group had been practicing this album for 5 years.
Live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read about this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll have some questions about that later.
Very good. I as a guy who pays his bills by playing live music right now in the greater DMV, which for those outside of the Mid-Atlantic is Maryland, Virginia, DC. That's kind of like our zone.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions as to how you could do this for 5 years and then drop the album.
Yeah. So from what I can tell, this is really a collaboration between two individuals.
Right.
So Alan Vega on vocals and Marty Thau, right, who is the
producer, for lack of better words.
Yeah. So what's actually interesting about this is, from what I can tell, there are really no acoustic instruments on this album.
I've never heard one, and
Correct.
I listened to albums after this one.
Right. It is essentially vocals, some synthesizers,
And some drum machines.
some drum machines. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's really known as a predecessor, like a proto-punk album, very minimalist in its design. And there's definitely, I'll say there's punk vibes, there's punk attitude in this album.
Absolutely. Because, punk takes on many a form.
Yeah.
It's edgy.
Mm-hmm.
They're embracing odd technology for the time, which is my greatest praise for this. This is some pioneer shit right here.
Yeah, and this is considered extremely influential, right? It's proto-punk, proto-industrial.
Proto-electronica.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And it's inspired a lot of genres. And Alan Vega's vocals are kind of interesting from the perspective of, you could argue whether or not he actually sings.
Nah. I can tell you with great aplomb, he rarely sings.
Yeah, but is it? but let me ask you this: is this? So he emotes a pitch.
He does,
and he's not, and he's in tune with the music. So is this Sprechstung?
Wow, way to call that out,
Yeah.
Berkeley. Okay, yeah, I would say it's Sprechstung or
There we go.
Sprechstung, as I've always said. Yeah,
Yes.
as I've always said. I've never said it
You've
before.
never said that word in your life.
I've literally heard it twice. I always thought it's tongue.
Yeah. I don't really speak German, so.
Lord knows I don't. Yeah, it's coasting. You know what it reminds me of? Who is Lou
Reed?
always
Lou
Reed. It's Lou Reed-ish. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm so glad I caught that on the spot.
Yeah.
It's Butthole Surfers.
Yeah. So the funny thing about that is, so one of my sons loves to come to me and say, "What is this song?" And he just does something equivalent to what you just did, except usually 20 times worse, and I usually get the song right.
I'm sorry, 20 times worse than what I just did. You and I just got hoboed at a community bar, and I still was able to perform better than your son.
Yeah, and
He's a very good musician.
yeah, and my arm smells like a stripper, but
Hey, whatever.
yeah,
I just got a hoe.
yeah,
There's who's to say who influenced who, but there was an attitude at that time. I'd be interested. You have your laptop out? Would you do the quick research on when that Lou Reed song came out? I'd love to see that like weird cowboy talky tongue versus this, and see how like it played into the dynamic, because this is not a song we're talking about.
yeah.
He has this tone the entire album. He never changes it. There's nothing dynamic about it. It's like a weird delay narrator over the entire album.
It is. So Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed came out in 1972.
Okay. So could be influenced.
Could be influenced. However, doing a little bit of research on this, he was also influenced by the king himself, Elvis Presley.
I heard that.
And
Who, by the way, was the best talk singer of all time.
yeah, and there
That
are
we
a
have
couple
recorded.
songs on here that I would agree I can hear the Elvis influence.
Sure. I would give it that.
Yeah.
Sans melodicism and like soul.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the goal, nor was it the goal of Walk on the Wild Side.
Agreed. I mean, storytelling is actually what this comes down to. At the end of the day, this is the story of a few vagrants.
Yeah.
A story of an incredibly bad moment and some other things.
Yeah. And I think there's definitely a statement that they're trying to make, around potentially suburban lifestyle in certain areas. As you mentioned, there's a pretty horrific story that comes up on this album. And there's just a little bit of potentially American excess that comes through here.
Totally. The edgelord of, poo-pooing on, commercialism and everyday life that's always going to be the heart of rock and roll to some extent.
Yeah.
And going against the grain.
I thought the heart of rock and roll was the beat.
Hey, I see what you did there. We've got
This album sounds nothing like Huey Lewis.
no, not even a little. And that's the funny part. For those of you who have not yet tuned into this album, and this is something I have not made the call on yet, but I feel like this is a good time to do it. We're about to take a break. You should pause and just listen to the first tune called Ghost Rider on this album. And chime back in. It doesn't stray too far from this, and I think you'll get the tone that we're going to speak about. Before we take a break, any last liner notes?
Cool in the gang, baby.
All right, we'll see you in a sec.
All right, troops, it's time to have a little chat about your so-called self-care. You think wrapping yourself up in a weighted blanket is going to solve your problems? Maybe if you're dealing with something serious like a medical condition, those things can help, but let's face it, most of you aren't battling that. You're just soothing symptoms. You want to sleep better? Stop scrolling till 2 a.m. Want to feel less anxious? Start moving your body. Live something heavier than your excuses. Go for a run. Drink some water. And no, I don't mean some of those flavored sugar puddles masquerading as hydration. Here's the deal. Exercise, hydration, and proper rest aren't just good ideas. They're the foundation of a healthy life. Weighted blankets might feel like a hug, but you know what feels better? Being strong enough to carry yourself through life without crutches. So go out there and get after it.
Well, I couldn't be happier to be involved with that sponsor.
Not at all. I can't wait to get mine.
So, Daniel, let's look at the track list here.
Well, 1 second before we get into there.
Please.
So we've talked about the fact that this album is very influential. And so I can hear a few of, if I listen through this, I can hear where those influences potentially arrived.
Okay,
Right?
say more.
So if I think about some of the sounds and the soundscape that shows up on this album, I think of a song, Beats of Fury by Chemical Brothers. I think of Closer by 9 Inch Nails. Death Valley by Sonic Youth. Nightclubbing by Iggy Pop.
I mean, 3 of 4 of those I know off the top, the former of the 3.
Yeah.
I would love to ask Trent Reznor if he pulled from this. But with that said,
Yeah, there's more things on Downward Spiral itself that I think if he wasn't directly influenced, I think the soundscape on here set the stage for the types of tones and vibes that eventually got there.
yeah, to me, my immediate read is another group. It's an artist, LCD Sound System. I don't love. However,
I left that out of my list, but yes, LCD Sound System,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
What song in particular? Do you have a song in particular?
no,
or just in
just,
general?
You hear it in general.
Yeah.
It's just like this, Daft Punk's coming to my party type
Yeah.
shit. Like it's just like, and that's not even like a good reference. The end game is you get this incredibly driven, direct. I want to embrace technology. I want to have like a drone effect. I want to have a storytelling aspect. There's musicality here, folks. I defend preeminently because if you can't tell from the tonality of my voice, I have a lot of problems with this, people. But I think one of those problems is, and I'm going to just throw myself at there, is I don't know that I can cover it. And that upsets me as a musician. I love the fact that I can roll to a bar and be like, what do you want to hear?
Yeah.
And this is so odd. It's a drone of a drum, a held synth wave, some decoration where it comes, and a guy yelling through a delay pedal. Yelling is an overstatement. A guy speaking through a delay pedal. And that's pretty much it. I love 5 minutes of tune sometimes.
Or longer.
Yes, it gets there, kids. It gets there. It gets to 10:26 at one point, if I'm not mistaken. However, the influence, I'd like to think it's there on some. I just don't know how. Once again, I don't see some of my electronic heroes because a lot of what you just leaned into was heavily electronic based, though the 9 Inch Nails reference does kind of bring us into industrial rock, which someone else had to open that door. There, as you mentioned, there's not an acoustic instrument in this album.
Yeah, in reading about this, some of the influences, people who say they're influenced, Buzzcocks, Ministry. I do not hear Buzzcocks in this at all.
Not at all.
I'm with you with LCD Sound System. Very much so. But I can hear, this sounds nothing like Ministry to me, but there are Not even close, actually.
Not even close. Like that's where I'm scratching my head a little bit here because I feel like I'm putting together a weird crime puzzle that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
With that said, there are other things I hear here that absolutely would work. Like, I feel like In Excess has an option here. Am I wrong?
You're not, because I've seen some ties to NXS, and there's other artists, actually very popular artists that we'll talk about later.
I'm gonna say In Excess is not a popular artist. Like,
Right.
defining for the time.
Yeah, and we could. I'm curious. So one of the things we've tried really hard not to do is to actually look at this list.
Oh, well, I haven't looked ahead. I have no idea what's
Right.
next.
So the album Kick by NXS, I don't know how many songs there are. I think there's 11 songs in there, and I can't remember if it's like 9 or 7 songs were like in the top whatever. Like that album was a massively
Can
huge
we
album.
assume it's down the list somewhere?
It's got to be on the list, right?
Yeah. I mean, so fun part for us in this entire experience is we're committed to not looking down the list. Well,
Yeah.
we might look 1 or 2 albums ahead, but man, one of these days, you and I, we talked about it the other night, actually, we got to do a segment on and make a bet on things we think will come, you know?
Yeah.
And there's some dead ringers, like, Thriller will be on the list, but like where?
Right.
Top 50, top 30. We can have some fun bets that'll be, radio worthy. The In Excess, I mean, Jesus, that could be a top 300, honestly.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, I really hadn't like put those numbers together, and I was playing the album in the car, and my kids are in the car, and like song after song, I'm like, that was a hit, that was a hit, that was a hit,
Yeah.
that was a hit.
Well, speaking of cars will be pretty close to them too.
Oh, do you think
Oh, absolutely.
their debut album?
Yeah, that's the one that make the top 500.
Yeah, not Heartbeat City, even though that was a big.
Fantastic album.
Yeah.
No. It had 3 incredible bangers on it that will be the one and drive some.
Oh, I have goosebumps thinking about some of these albums. I love these albums.
Oh, I get so excited.
So
go,
before we
go.
get into the tracks,
Okay.
one thing I want to talk about with you, my friend, is I think of this album as potentially a shopping cart with a broken wheel that is full of raw ingredients. Full of raw ingredients.
Okay,
So I
yeah.
mentioned like 9 Inch Nails, and there's a hi-hat in there that I hear there. I mentioned Beats of Fury.
Cicada hi-hat?
Yeah. Now, to be clear, not the current cicada hi-hat. If you look at cicada like dub cicada hi-hat, that's one thing.
Dub cicada, trap cicada is one hi-hat.
Yeah, trap,
But
yeah. This is like listening to cicadas.
this sounds like summer cicadas if you live in a zone that has the horrid bug known as a cicada. It's just jarring on the ear.
Yeah.
And it's a wave sample. It's just spammed.
Right. So what you get here is the equivalent of baker's chocolate.
Sure.
So my friend
You
Carl,
give it to your kid and take a video?
yeah. So my friend Carl is quite a whiz in the kitchen.
I'll take a whiz in the kitchen.
So Carl, talk about like potentially in your experience as a cook about potentially some raw ingredients that may be potentially objectionable on first taste, but when combined together, make a beautiful dish.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. I know you warned me this was coming, and yet didn't. We had to talk. Should I tell you or not? And I'm so glad.
Not the talk, but
No, you were like, should I have a metaphor? Should I tell you? And I said, fuck no. Like, let's go. Now I've got to peg this one on a Buzzsprout. Nice. But I love this. Baker's chocolate, for those who haven't had it, is pure cacao. There is no sugar in this chocolate. It looks like your standard issue chocolate bar, and you eat it, and it tastes like absolute death dirt. It's great, and I'm pretty sure if the internet existed in 1983, this would have been the prank parents played on their kids.
yeah.
By the way, you can still do it, y'all. It exists. It's not that expensive. Furthermore, to talk about absolute vile, horrid items that you wouldn't want to taste on their own, that you would absolutely need to include in order for things to move forward in the process, though, if I'm reading your reactions right as you're nodding beautifully, is So baking soda is a very good example.
Yeah.
Baking soda is fucking vile on its own. You know this if you've ever tried to add it into like a biscuit recipe and forgotten to sift it through. You get an explosion of mouth alkalinity, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct,
biology or chemistry.
Yeah.
Thank you. What? I'm not smart. I skipped all of school and smoked weed. But furthermore, you get this horrid moment that disrupts your entire experience, and no longer you won't want to eat food for the next hour. It's that bad. So when used properly, it's absolutely essential in making sure any baked good, a biscuit, a pancake, a scone, anything that you eat in the risen categories, short of a French loaf of bread, turns out beautiful. And all of your favorite desserts, for that matter, souffles too. Baking soda also encourages the Maillard reaction, which helps fried food come together. So talk about something that's horribly vile on its own, or when left to just staring at a Arm & Hammer box versus being played into a thing. Another great example we can talk about in the food realm is the simple tomatillo. I just worked with them the other day. This little hard green tomato with a husk on it is highly toxic to humans. If you try and cut this out of your garden and eat it, not only will you have the absolute worst pain in every crevice in the bit of your lips and the corner of your tongue, you're going to have horrid diarrhea, and you're probably going to get a fever. You'll throw up, the skins are terrible, and it doesn't taste good on its own. Roast it for 7 minutes, or in this case, if I'm going to roll into this metaphor, let it run for a few years, and look what it will influence. You get some of the tastiest salsas, your favorite green verde salsa sitting inside Chipotle, anything that matches with pork, it suddenly becomes acidic and beautiful, and everything that we see is a green tomato in America. I could probably pick a few more out of thin air, but I need not beat this any further. What Dan's saying is, and if I'm reading this right, before we jump into our track listing, is no matter how raw the ingredient sitting in our hands may be, it probably and indefinitely influenced and opened the door with time and the risk to take it. An electric genre of all things from punk to electric music. I mean, if you listen to this is so punk rock. It's so unabatedly punk rock. It's the way he speaks. It's so cool. It's so of the essence. The only people speaking like this were, I mean, this is so Ramone-esque to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I'm getting there, and I finally hit it. Thank you. I've been sitting.
I wanted you to marinate
all day. I needed to land that one stone. I finally got it right here live. Thank God. It's Ramone-esque, and also Fatboy Slim. It's so weird. I like the electronic aspect more than I like the vocal aspect. I don't like any of the synth aspect, and that hurts me because I like synthesizers more than both the other. They were so content on these three ideas because no one had put this concoction together, you know? And to go back to the culinary realm, it's like put three ingredients together. In this case, the three ingredients were hard driving digital drums that yet could not sound hard if they tried.
Correct.
This drum machine, I mean, it sounds like me like flicking my toes in a pool.
Yeah.
The vocals are only drenched in delay. That's all they have. Fun fact: the Eventide guitar pedal that became so popular in the 90s and then rolled into the 2000s.
Yeah, like Steve Vai.
This is that like modeling.
Yeah.
This is that profile. I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg, but this is the Eventide delay. Like, this is what we know of. And Steve Vai is a perfect example. Yeah. It's so drippy. It's so like, let's move from hair rock into grunge rock. Mm-hmm. This is that feel. And they had it 13 years before.
Yeah.
And then lastly, these synthesizers, which all sound like Lowry organs. There's not a good synth in here. You're not going to find your Solly. They're not going to find.
It might be a Lowry on this, actually.
It probably is.
I meant to look it up, but I think you hit something.
It was my elbow on this desk, but before that, it was. These organs are not like today's hot organ. This is not Corey Henry going ham on Lingus. This is.
But it's somewhere between Break On Through and Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Yeah. Gross. I hate that you referenced that so dead on. Oh. And so ends my monologue. Oh. Daniel, save me.
You know I love you, my friend.
All right, as I chug this Yingling, we're going to take a quick break.
7 slippery snakes slithered silently, seeking 6 sizzling sausages. But what did they find? Music so sizzling, it'll make your playlist slither with style. Tune into Backwards Beats, where we dissect albums and uncover hidden gems and sometimes make you just say, "What did I just hear?" Streaming every Tuesday. Don't miss a beat.
We're back.
Yes, we are.
It took some convincing. Dan ran down the street.
Carl wouldn't open the door to the bathroom.
No. And he wore my Crocs too. It was a whole debacle. I said, Dan, we have to talk about the 7 tracks on this album. And he was like, I can't do this anymore. And he was like, something about passports and dual citizenship. I don't even know. But here we are.
I don't know what that means.
There you go. He only lives in Northern Maryland, kiddos. So you know where to find him. And if you need me, I'll be in Portugal. And that's kind of how it's going to go. In the meantime, nothing will escape our judgment from this album. We need to talk about these tracks down the line. This is what we do, Daniel.
Yeah, so we've set this up, and the intent of this podcast is to be very real, to be respectful, but be real, right? So
I go real over respectful.
Right. I think the first half of this podcast, we have established probably what you're going to anticipate we're going to say actually about the music on this album.
Guys, I went out of my way to be really nice.
Yep. Now it's time to talk about Ghost Rider, track number 1.
Great name. Actually had me hyped.
Best thing about the song.
Album says suicide. Has bitching cover art. 1977. Great year for music.
Yeah.
I'm like, Ghost Rider, let's go.
Yep.
And then you get...
Next song?
I mean, you could black out and it'd be the next song. Here's what happens. May I?
Go for it.
There's a drum machine. It's underwhelming. There's a layer of a little bit of synthesizer. There's this vocal that comes in with some delay on it. Mm-hmm. It's menacing. And I go, this is going to be sick. And then it never changes. It's the same song for 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Yeah. No musical value. It's my TI-83 calculator from high school had a tiny speaker could have produced this.
Is this a song that goes do da da do da da do da da do, or is this one that goes da do da do da do?
No, it's a do da da do.
Okay, that's that one.
Do da da do.
Okay.
They have this thing that they do. I say they because there's 2 in the bunch, Marty and do you remember the other guy's name?
I do. Do you remember?
No, I do not. That's why I'm asking you. However, you're gonna be the guy who remembers.
Yep.
They're super content with repetitive. Which, by the way, if your opening tune is I'm gonna go full Radiohead and just do this like repetitive robotic motion thing, cool. I'm so in. Yeah. I would have tolerated 2 minutes and 30 seconds of this any day of the week.
Yeah. So
I would have
Alan Vega's the
Vega. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would have tolerated it. I would have celebrated it. You would have gotten my mixed notes, which are vocals are super hot, over delayed, and put weirdly on top of this ostinato. And what's the next song gonna be?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When I was first hearing this, at first I'm like this. I had the exact same feeling you did, and it's like he's just talking. I will say
I'm waiting for the breakdown.
Yep, he does actually hold a pitch, but it's in tune with the do da da do da da do da da do. It's in tune with that.
We're not celebrating that.
You're not celebrating it. However, interesting fact you may not have uncovered.
Okay.
This song was actually covered by a fairly popular band that you may have heard of.
I am so glad Creed got something out there.
No. Have you ever heard of the song "It's the End of the World"?
Shut the fuck up. Are you serious?
REM covered this song.
No way.
And here's the interesting thing.
And this is why they couldn't put a career together. They were like, yo, hold on. Let's do the Jesus song. That's me in the corner.
Yeah.
Killer.
Yep.
Put the video to it. Let's do, Leonard Bernstein.
Right.
End of the world.
Yep.
And then
Stand.
let's,
Stand.
Oh, Stand for sure. Dude, REM has several songs. What I'm saying is this, you chose this.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I actually listened to the cover.
They could have covered
Duct Tape.
25 or 6 to 4 by Chicago. I don't care.
Yeah.
They could have been anything.
It could have been, but it was this. So I listened to it, and here's the thing I'll say about the cover. And so you can't find the cover of this on Spotify, so they aren't so proud of it that they put it in their discography.
Doesn't sound like they're proud of it at all.
But you can find it on YouTube, and I'll put the link in the show notes for that.
Very good.
What they did do is they found the bones of the song that if you unfocus your eyes at that, what those things?
Oh, like the Magic Eye book?
Magic Eye Book.
Yeah.
And you can see the sailboat.
Yeah, sure.
You know the reference? Mallrats?
Elephant. Yeah, there it is.
It's a sailboat. Yeah. So they
Beautifully done, man.
Yeah.
Beautifully done.
so they found the sailboat musically, but then Michael Stipe decided to pay homage to the vocal stylings. And
so it's boring as shit?
I wouldn't listen to this with someone else's ears.
Oof.
But like
Or
I
for
said,
me,
they found
who
the bones.
looks like Michael Stipe.
Yeah.
He wouldn't listen to my ears.
So that's enough about Ghost Rider. There's a drone in here, and actually I mentioned the song "Sounds of Fury" by Chemical Brothers, and the tone, the synthesizer tone. That's where I felt that song "Sounds of Fury."
Sure. No,
right?
great tune.
Yep.
I had that album as a kid.
Yeah.
And this will go back to, we're going to pull from this totem the whole time. People did pull from this album. There's no question about it. It's just the test of tolerance to enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm not eating baking soda.
Exactly. Moving on to Rocket USA. Mm-hmm. You would think the song really didn't change. You just be like, did someone skip the CD? And now you're into yet another brilliant chugga 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 type of beat. And what's the progression on this one, Daniel?
None.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a drone.
Yep.
And
on the one, we assume.
Yeah.
Or managed 6. It could be either.
And it's not really chugga chugga because this is the first song on the album that makes me feel like when you're driving in the car and you roll the windows down a little bit and
I
my
have a note on this.
ears want to die.
Oh yeah, it's the helicopter song.
Yeah.
It's like to me this song sounded, and it's so funny. I was in the car the other day making my son listen to this, and that's why he's gonna need help in the future. It sounded like that window sound.
Yep.
And blitzkrieg bop.
Yeah.
That is what this song is.
Yep.
It's the perfect marriage of an undesirable sound and a slightly undesirable song.
Yeah. But I would recommend driving pretty fast in your car, listening to Blitzkrieg Bop with the windows rolled down, and you'll get the same.
Oh, I'd take that way over.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd take that any day of the week.
Yep.
Yeah. If
But-
you want the life hack version, there it is.
Yeah. But there is an organ in this.
But once again, like when you say an organ, like I have organs. But
It's the
there's-
break on through organ. There's two
Sure.
sections where that happens.
Sure. It's a wavery held smooth tone. It could be a Lowry. It could be a Hammond. It could be some other crappy thing of the nature. It does not fit for the record. That's the weird part. Is they're like, this will be cool. And you're like, that's not cool.
And it's kind of even hard to tell whether the organ part's actually in time with the throbbing drum.
I'm guessing it's not. I mean, no one's...
I think there are parts of it that are, and then it's like, now my hands fell on the keyboard.
Look, dude, you went to Berkeley. There's no agree with me or don't agree with me, but like, and you can just nod on mic if you are uncomfortable answering in vocal. But there's not a good musician performance on this album. Period. Right?
Well, there's
like,
no musician playing the music.
No,
on this.
someone had to push that key at the right time,
Yeah,
and
you're
even
right.
those entrances are fucked.
Yeah.
Like, it's mayhem.
Yeah. I look at this album. We talked about the raw ingredients.
Yep.
And I think there's a place for the soundscape that comes out of this album.
Great word to use.
Yeah. So I could really abide by a number of these songs being a backing track in a David Lynch film or something like that.
Thank you.
This-
Cinematically, this speaks volumes.
It would scare the shit out of me in certain cases. Not this
Totally.
song in particular, but there's some other songs that I'm like, oh yeah, I can get the vibe there.
Yep.
I just as an independent piece of art, I'm not there. It's the baking soda. It sans chocolate cake.
Carl passes.
Yep.
Nice.
Cherie.
So Shri, Johnny, these are all built upon the egos of like people they met, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Cherie has the most plays. It's 8 million plus.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's the most pleasurable tune to listen to. I'm actually perplexed as to why.
Well, maybe because it actually has a chord progression.
Well, there is a 1, 4, and a 5 in some order. It's
I think
a blues?
I think it's 1 4 5 4.
Oh my God, it's a blues.
Yeah.
Would you call it 12 bar? 16
It's not.
bar?
It's not actually a blues. It's because it's measure by measure. Ba ba ba. Yeah. Yeah. It goes. Yeah. So it's
Ba, ba, ba,
Yeah.
ba, 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 ba. Yeah, it's
forever.
not only every fucking song, but yeah.
And there's a bit of a drum beat in here because there's like a 16th note pattern, like a duck-a-dung, duck-a-dung, duck-a-dung. And then almost a clave. It's almost like a 3-2 clave, but we'll talk about clave later. But there's like a clicking sound that is almost like a 3-2 clave, and we will talk about what a 3-2 clave means if we want to nerd out later. But there's that in there.
It's like a cut rate twist and shout.
And,
Am I wrong?
yeah.
Say me out, baby, now.
Yeah.
And it has all of the the vocalese of it too. If you think about where the clave hits,
Yeah.
shake it up, baby, now. I could do, like it's just a little swung.
Yeah.
And this is no Dilla work here, guys. But they were actually swinging drums here. I don't know if it's sloppy performance or not,
I don't
because
think
the
that
drum performance is straight.
well, it's a drum machine, so
Precisely,
they
it has to
programmed
be.
yeah.
But the chord progression changes were so sloppy that it actually has some.
Swagger?
Don't,
Stank?
I'm gonna leave the room. Yeah, like I hate to say it, but yeah.
Yeah. And now, like, to be clear, I don't mind experimental music.
No, neither do I.
I'll listen to, I mean, not that this is super experimental. Like, I love me some Pink Floyd, and I'll listen to Care for That Axe Eugene, and I'll listen to Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. But when I get to several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave and grooving with a pict, which is actually the name of a song off of Amagama,
This is why we keep Dan around.
I'm kind of out. It's a one-time listen just to say I listened to a song called Several Species of Small Furry Animals Gathered Together in a Cave, Grooving with a Pict.
It sounds like you trying to talk your way out of the sex party.
It kind of is. So I'm kind of out. So
By the way, which was a fair description of tonight. But nonetheless, I hear you. And to build on that, there's nothing really deep if you consider in 1977 what musically was abound.
there's so much to listen to.
Holy shit. The understanding of harmony, like some of the greatest groups of all time are flourishing. I mean, we had everything from Hall & Oates to Chicago to the Eagles to
Steely Dan.
Steely Dan. Like we had just killer music. This synthesized drum loop over a 1-4-5-4, right?
Yep.
Not groundbreaking.
At least it's only 3 minutes and 42 seconds,
Yeah, I guess.
which is actually makes the next song even more meaningful because it's only 2 minutes and 10 seconds,
Tolerable, as one would say.
which is Johnny.
Johnny.
Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Oh, please go first.
So to me, this is the most irritating 12-bar blues I've ever listened to in my life.
Well, this is a true blues.
Yes, it is actually a 12-bar blues. I don't think this is Johnny Be Good.
Oh, it's Johnny.
Johnny.
This is Johnny stepped on a nail. Yeah.
Yeah, after shooting a bunch of heroin, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned Elvis, and when I was doing some research of the songs on here, I get the most Elvis vibes from his vocal.
Sure.
And
He
it's-
tries to do a sing thing here.
Yeah. I think I even wrote down this is probably the most actual singing he does on the album.
Yeah. It's not good, but it's
It's in tune mostly.
croony.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's more Dean Martin than it is Elvis, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, we have the organ.
Yeah.
This is more break on through than Pee Wee Herman, I would say, but
Yeah, I'd say so too. It's like Desert Island. If you got handed 3 instruments and this is what you came up with, I'd forgive you.
this is the music you're playing, not listening to.
No. Like you had 3 instruments and your voice to create an instrument or to create a song.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you this. If you're not a musician,
Right.
he came up with this and this made the list. Like, this is not good music, Daniel.
It's not.
And and here's why I'm allowed to say it. The second you enter the blues realm, when you show us you know the chord structure of the blues,
Yes.
you could have done a million things. You've spent so much time putting your middle finger up to your friends, your family, and anybody else. If you're going to be punk, if I'm going to give you that badge, if you want to go do the blues, you have to do it like Zeppelin did it.
Yeah.
You have to go do it like the Stones did it. You know, steal it from black people.
Right.
But furthermore, you have to make it good.
Yeah.
Like, this is so lackluster over the only chord progression on the album. And yet, we still have these droning crap drums.
Yeah.
And by now, I'm fed up. I was walking my kid. So I told you that. I was like, I tolerated this album 5 times. I listened to it twice. I walked back and forth down the same path I talked about the other day, where I enjoyed Funerals by
Arcade Fire.
Arcade Fire, yeah. And man, I had to turn it off. It's obnoxious, for lack of better words. Stop this tier of hell.
Yeah.
It just rolls and rolls and rolls, and you're not saying anything. This character is not compelling. Your story is not telling me anything. I would love to tell you what you're trying to tell me right now. The next song we talk about, there's a story.
Yeah. Well,
We're going to girl next. No.
Yeah.
When we get to Frankie, there's actually a story.
yes.
In the meantime, it's rambling to me.
And I would much rather listen to In the Meantime.
Oh, but what a
Space Hog?
great song.
Yeah.
But is it just me, or lyrically speaking, I don't even have to look at my phone for this, I remember feeling so absent in the middle of this album going, what are you talking about? Who are these people? They mean nothing to me.
Right.
They have no context in life because you've not set like a foundation for who they are.
Yeah, and there's a vocal delivery that starts off, and I think there's 3 or 4 songs that's literally the same. Like, I'm going to say the name of the album, or here's the name of the song, and now I'm going to sing about the song.
You know who else says that? DJ Khaled. Muscle on the beat, ho. Like, if you have to print your shit,
Yeah.
and now give them credit. Maybe they were the OG. But, man, there's nothing I enjoyed with any of these tunes, honestly.
No. I mean, even Girl.
Girl, yeah.
So here we go. So an interesting thing.
I got a note on my phone for this one. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
So I'm curious what you have to say. So this is actually, structurally, it's a bossa nova.
I saw that.
It's a 3/2 clave. So
I saw that, by the way, because I read it in your notes.
yeah. So clave. So in many like Afro-Cuban or Latin or Brazilian music,
Traditionally Latin America.
Yep.
Yes.
So a clave is just a rhythm, and a 3/2 clave is all they're talking about is the grouping of beats. So so you have 2 different primary claves in a bossa nova. You have right, and then you go, but then you go bop 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 bop
yeah.
bop. It's
Where do you
reverse.
front load the fast beat?
Yep. So whether you're getting 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3
Or
1 2, I like
1,
to be
2,
in it.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3,
Yep.
1, 2, 3, yeah.
Yep. So
They
that's
always go for the Bernstein first for some reason.
Yep. So that's, even though that's not actually a 3/2 clave, those are 2 different time signatures, not to be too pedantic, but anyway, that happens. So there's what's interesting is these people do know something about music, not, but what you hear is a song written in a bossa nova. It's called Girl. And it's basically some dude saying, "You're so hot, please touch me." It's like a pervert, like,
It's totally pervy.
right.
And
So
furthermore,
this is not Girl from Ipanema.
no, I feel like you're giving them a little too much credit too. Their drum machine did that. They didn't choose that.
They had to program it, or do you think they like hit bossa nova on
I
the
think
Casio?
they hit bossa nova on the goddamn thing and just yelled over it, or not yelled. Delay Cool Boy voiced into it while holding us inside. No, I'm serious, dude. As a kid, I would do this on the telephone. Back when we had landlines, I had to like talk to like a weird girlfriend in 6th grade. Like once or twice, I flexed the free play "I Shot the Sheriff" Eric Clapton version off my $200 Casio from the Price Club.
Nice.
And act like I was playing on the telephone. These guys hit the bossa nova button, bro. They didn't program that.
I was trying to give them some
chance. There's not a chance. Hey, if you think they programmed that, please hit us up. What's our Insta?
Our Instagram is Backwards Beats Podcast.
Thank you. Show us proof. And or you can find us at our Gmail at
backwardsbeatspodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you very much. Now, if you can show us that they program these drum beats, I will do phenomenal things. I will wear a costume. We can make a bet. But that was a button hit, man. That was a button hit on a sequencer.
So here's something interesting.
Because they're not creative beats either.
No.
Those are so stock.
They are. So here's something interesting. So Alan Vega, who's the singer in this group. So he was actually
Lou Bega's son, Mambo number 5. Fun fact.
son?
No, I made that up.
I was going to say, because I believe Alan Vega was born in like 1938.
Isn't it Lou Bega over Vega?
Yeah.
I was just making a joke.
So what's interesting about this, if you think about it from a punk perspective, punk is usually reserved for the youth, right? He's almost 40 when this album comes out.
Pent up aggression. No, well, that's why it sucks.
He's not mad enough.
He was like, I'm gonna show the world my hurt. Hurt. With a lot of delay.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I was watching that Sesame Street today. You ever seen that one? With the I don't know who their character is, who looks like my father, but a small blue man. It's like Mr. Jones or something like that. And then an episode on fruit, and they're all talking about their favorite fruits together. They come back to the market, and each Sesame Street character is like singing an ode to a fruit they love. And then he's like, I wrote a little ditty, and he's like the most prim and proper of them all. I'd like to have them back. And it turns into like super Megadeth, like glong, 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 glong. Fruit, I like fruit, and he's playing pianos and all the fruit like moshing. It's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
That song trumps anything these guys have ever put out in their entire catalog.
Right. And we talked about the fact that they like influenced Ministry and influenced the Buzzcocks. I would listen to Ministry any day of the week.
Sure, dude. I listen to Ministry too.
Yeah. So thankful that Ministry exists.
They're merely a stepping stone.
Yep.
In a pond of, can we get through this shitty pond?
Yep. So
right,
we've
let's
talked
get-
about Girl. Now
Yeah.
we're on to, I guess, it's
Here
not
it
the most
is.
popular song.
No, but this is it. This is the song, right?
Yep. 10 minutes of
Frankie.
Frankie Teardrop.
So Frankie Teardrop is a really Criminal Minds ass story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you like to regale this, or shall I?
Go for it, my friend.
I don't want to, but
All
I will
right.
start it.
Want to rock, paper, scissors for it? Or
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. 1, 2, 3, go. Shit. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh!
All right. So, I get to choose.
Yeah, you win.
You take it. I don't want this responsibility because I'm gonna tell it wrong.
Yeah. So here's a funny thing. So my son has a college radio show, and so
Shout out.
So it's the Haunted Horror Hour on WSUM, University of Wisconsin Madison, and so we just played rock paper scissors on a podcast, and he and his co-host played the game Mind Palace on radio, which is literally probably the worst possible thing you could play on radio. It's awesome.
What the fuck is Mind Palace?
Basically, you know the concept of a mind palace to like store your memories. Like you build a mind palace in your room, in your brain, and you store memories in different rooms in your mind palace. And so they say, all right, in my mind palace, I am thinking of this thing, and your co-host, of course, has to guess. This is not something you do on radio or on a podcast, but we almost were as bad as that by doing rock paper scissors. So let's talk about Frankie Teardrop. A delightful young man, Frankie, who's the father of a young child and a husband to a wife. And poor Frankie has a difficult time making it in this very difficult world.
Does he get laid off or fired?
I don't remember, but
He
basically
doesn't have a job anymore.
he loses his job. He gets evicted from his apartment. He really can't feed his family. So all he has left for his choices at about 4 minutes into this 10-minute song is
and this
to
is imperative.
acquire a firearm and shoot his baby and his wife and himself. Yeah, so that's yucky.
I mean, the band's called Suicide.
Yep.
And the album's called Suicide. And we're not going to be the guys who blank out 7 asterisks this thing. Just call it what it is. Yuck. You gave me that much shit music so you could tell me this shit story over very bad music. Not great, guys.
Right.
But more the worst offense of this entire experience so far is we still have to endure 4 to 5 more minutes of this.
Correct. I have zero problems with this story. I don't mind.
You tell stories. You tell stories. You're a
I-
musician. You are entitled to.
I am happy. I enjoy uncomfortable, experiences and uncomfortable. Like this is uncomfortable. This is a real thing, right? This is there's no problem with the story other than it's tragic.
Dan just said there's no problem with murder suicide.
No, there's no problem with telling the story. Right?
You all get that.
And
idea.
there's no problem with putting that in your art.
I agree.
again, another song I would not listen to with somebody else's ears.
It's just not only the irony is the storytelling is probably the best on the album, as if there was any good storytelling to be had.
Yeah.
Story's terrible. The song is beyond terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It follows the same format, and that's what makes it so grating. You've worn my ears down for. We're
Math.
now sitting at almost 18 minutes of pure shit ear trauma. Now, I have to hear this story. And you haven't changed anything.
No.
It's the same grind. It's like listening to like a really shitty old refrigerator in a convenience store struggling to stay alive.
Right.
And you call this an album.
But what's crazy about this is, so as intense as the story is, it's given fairly matter-of-factly.
I would say uber matter of as if the narrator is indifferent.
Right. Frankie.
Frankie.
Can't pay his rent. I'm not getting the words right, and it doesn't matter because I think he improvised the song on the album.
No, he
anyway.
did. Facts. I saw the wiki today.
Yeah.
He just improvised it.
So then, as the song progresses, as the song continues.
That's how much we're splitting hairs here, guys.
Yeah, as
we're
the song-
trying.
the song
We're trying
continues-
so hard.
You'll have another 5 minutes of the same stuff interspersed with cacophonous screams, which of course, right? Because I think Frankie ends up in hell is when, right? I think that's the final thing we
That's
learn
the
about Frankie.
assumption.
I think he says Frankie's in hell now.
Oh, when he said Frank's in hell, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a lyric. And then there's screaming, and then the song is over.
The fact that someone let him scream over the track for 10 minutes hurts me.
Yeah.
And then this is considered art. This is what did it for me, guys. Like I said, 5 listens, 2 serious ones. Man, I get that this has a foundational. I'm going to be very gracious here.
Baking soda.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. You saved this entire pod for that record. And we'll get on to the last song at some point. I get that this has a foundational salt in what ended up generating really good music.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus, this is just not a great chapter of it.
No. So there's a fairly prominent musician who is super inspired by this song
Oh, God.
and wrote his own permutation of this.
This blew my mind.
The boss himself, Mr. Bruce Springsteen, wrote the song State Trooper, which is the song is, let's say that song is, if this is on a scale between 1 and 100, if this song is a 3,
Yeah.
that song is a 5.
Yeah. About to say. You won't catch me buying tickets to Springsteen shows anyway. Like, I just don't love them.
Yeah.
But he's a significantly better songwriter for the time. And read the room. Like, do you want to sell a ticket? Do you want people to come to your shows?
Well, Bruce Springsteen has many other songs to offset this one.
We know that.
Yes.
It's just crazy to me he pulled from this.
We're so Divergent, since we don't know
Yes, please.
the list, Born to Run's got to be on this list, right?
On top 500?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll fall in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you want to make a bet? We're at...
Yeah, let's do it. What do you think?
Oh, this will be our first. I won't agree, but I'll put it in the 200s. I'm going to put it
200s?
in the late 200s, somewhere in the 250 to 280 range.
So philosophically, I agree with you. I bet you it's in the top 75.
Oh God, you think Rolling Stones humps that hard?
I think they hump that hard.
They'll never. By the way, they will never sponsor us. I'll make sure of it.
But make sure you subscribe to Rolling Stone magazine.
There you go.
Because
There's our mole.
yeah.
Sup, dog?
Do we have anything else to say about Frankie Teardrop?
No.
There's a thing here.
Guys, if you know, here's what I have to say. If you're gonna go listen to one song on suicide, go listen to Ghost Rider. Turn it off after 30 seconds, and then go listen to Frankie.
Yep.
And see how long you can tolerate it. And after 7 minutes, you'll go back to listening to normal shit in life, and you'll be so happy you forgot about all of this.
I would agree. I would then say, however, as a listener, if you are enjoying this podcast and you enjoy the vibe that we're putting forward and you have any empathy for us, I would say get in your car and crank up Rocket so you can go through what I went through as I was driving home from work today in preparation for this, and I will love you forever.
Do it for Dan, guys. Do it for Dan. All right, Dan, take us out. Last song.
All right, here are my notes. I wrote notes on the final song, Che.
Burn it.
1, flat 7, flat 6, 5, and more pressure wave stuff in my ears.
Oh, yeah, so cool. Flat 7, flat 7, 6, 5. This is the most interesting chord progression we've had today.
Yep.
And probably
It's
on
sinister.
I mean, they didn't even do that in the Shaka Khan album last week.
Right.
Or the Rufus album, I should say. But nonetheless, how interesting. But by then, we don't care. We don't like you. Daniel, would you hit this?
No.
I wouldn't hit this with somebody else's dick. This album's not good. It does not deserve a spot in the top 500. I don't care how influential, here's my really sarcastic air quotes, it may have been to other things. Guys, you missed the mark so hard on this, Rolling Stone. What were you thinking putting this in? It's terrible. I don't care that they use drum machines. I don't care that they use fun delay effects on a voice. The storytelling is cold trash. There's no lyrical value to speak of. There's no melodic value to speak of. The chord progressions are lackluster at best. The production value is horrid. To say this is Red Star Label's first release, what was their last release? Donald fucking Trump? Like, no one cares about this album in the real world. And I'll tell you how I know that. I'm staring at the metrics right now. They haven't broken 20 million listens since 1977 on this album.
I would agree. And yeah, again, I'm going to go back to the raw ingredients, right? I'm not going to buy a box of baking soda and eat it. Now, you mentioned many things you can make with it. I'm not going to buy fish sauce and drink from it. But fish sauce in a recipe is fantastic.
Totally.
Right? I'm not going to do those things. So I would say I am thankful that this album has existed and that other people listen to it.
I think it's an incredibly try-hard, campy choice for a list.
Yep.
Someone wanted to show off here and got their pick, and they got it at bitter last.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many better albums Dan and I would think would be on this list that could have had this spot.
Yeah. My younger son more recently has been coming to me and asking me for music recommendations. He's getting into some pretty cool music and all that sort of stuff. If I recommended this to my son, he would never talk to me again.
This sounds like you're plunging a toilet.
With your face.
With somebody else's anus on the back of your face.
So that being said,
it's been really great. Backwards Beats. My name's Carl Carter Pfanstiehl.
And I'm Dan Woodard.
We'll see you next time.
album suicide. We'd rather cut our dicks off with a rusty nail and see our dads naked.
Backward Speeds Podcast is a Tuna-Wood production recorded live at Thought Shack Studios in Halethorpe, Maryland.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us at Backward Speeds Podcast on most platforms.
Share the love, and we'll see you next week for another deep dive into the next album on Rolling Stone Magazine's Top 500 list. Until then, salt your melons.